Hello, ladies. How are you? How's everybody?
Good, good. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much for joining me for this month of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I know we're coming at the end of the month, but I think it's still important to talk about it for this month. I am the founder and president of PIL Creative Group. I'm sorry for my voice. I just was at the University of Miami game Saturday. Unfortunately, they lost, so even all the screaming didn't help. So this is a series that we do once in a while at PIL, and we and PIL stands for Patsy I, Linares, which are my initials, and we are the cure for marketing and creative ailments. So with that, I would like to conduct an interview with these two wonderful ladies about breast cancer awareness. Every month we try to touch on a subject pertaining to the month, and this month is obviously Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I'm here with two beautiful, smart, successful women that have gone through a battle with breast cancer, and how they serve, and how their survival and their awareness to other people and prevention and early detection was important. Josie Van
Hello.
is a director and president of Cowie Bottling Company, which is a South Florida-based beverage company. It started in Cuba. I know you weren't there.
Yeah.
1948, when Cuba was during the revolution. In 1959, the two executives came to South Florida and started the bottling company in 1962, which was amazing. And they've been one of the most well-founded bottling companies in South Florida, with brands like their founding name, Cowie, which is a lemon lime soda, and again started in 1962, with other brands like Mendieta, which is very popular here, and other tropical flavors like Copina, which is the top voted number 8 must-have drink for tourists, which is really fun. Jackie Mendieta, right?
Hello.
Hello. Which is a bilingual school psychologist of 24 years experience for Broward County schools, and a mother of 4, I don't know how 4, it's crazy. Extraordinary children. My kids, unfortunately, had to go to school with these kids, wonderful. And a wife of 26 years, and a school psychologist, and has a good fortune to work in what she believes is the two most important aspects is mental health and education.
Yes.
Great. So I'm going to ask you just a few questions on the subject, and talk about your amazing stories. So how did you both deal with the news when you first heard of your diagnosis? And how do you feel that after hearing it, after you heard you were cancer-free? How did you go from hearing about the news and to be cancer-free, and how the early detection helped?
So I feel that my journey with cancer started 2 years before I was diagnosed. And it really happened when my mom was diagnosed. She was diagnosed with triple negative cancer. She made a very brave decision. She underwent a bilateral mastectomy, and then she had to go through several chemotherapy infusions. So as her only child, that took a big chunk of about a year of time, and really trying to help her get through that. Well, after she is through that, I get diagnosed almost exactly 2 years later, to the date. So when I get the phone call from the doctor, it was a doctor that has known me personally for many, many years. And he was actually taking time away from his vacation to let me know what my diagnosis was. And the way he phrased it was, "You're going to be okay." That's before he told me anything. "You're going to be just fine." Now, this wonderful doctor, Dr. Rolando de Leon, the minute he learned that my mom had breast cancer, his protocol with me changed. So instead of having the regular mammogram and ultrasound, which I always did get, he incorporated an MRI. So my cancer was discovered in an MRI. So it was stage 0. So when I heard that news, I was like, well, what exactly, do I have it? Do I not have it? what is this? And he's like, no, you absolutely have breast cancer. And it is at the, as early as we could possibly find it. So in many respects, I do feel that because my mom went through it, she kind of saved me.
Yeah.
She kind of saved me. So regardless, that news of you're cancer positive, it just kind of takes the life out of you. It takes the breath out of you. And as a mom, the first thing that flashes before your eyes is your family. And doing everything. Okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? Because I want to be here. Yeah, I want to be present. I want to live. And what is it that I need to do? So that was my
if your family has a history of it, and obviously
no, we don't. It was something my mom was diagnosed later in life. It was just something that could happen later in life. No one else in the family has been diagnosed with breast cancer.
But because your mom, he did the MRI. Should we ask? Because my grandmother had a history of it. Should we ask? Look, because we have the history, and like kind of ask, like
absolutely. With my experience, and I'm, at first I had to go through all of this and be very like I needed the time to be kind of quiet with it. And then I've become a little bit more vocal about it. But if I could say anything, it would be if you have a history in your family of breast cancer, request an MRI.
Interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I don't think most doctors are sending people for MRIs for, breast scanning. So that is really, they found, and interestingly enough, later when I was talking to oncologists and surgeons, what they found was present last year, like the year before my diagnosis, and they were able to compare. So what does that mean is the necessity to consistently be tested, to go to and do your mammos and do your ultrasounds, because you're establishing a baseline. And that comparison, in my line of work, that baseline and comparison is very, very important. And I think for a lot of us, that's important. Being able to say, and they were able to tell me, it grew. It grew from one year to the next. Wow. So yeah, that early detection, I think, was critical for me.
Because we do, because I do the ultrasound. I do the mammogram and the ultrasound, but I should tell them look, that's just because of your age.
I would say yes.
Yeah,
I would say yes.
Josie, how was your from knowing to?
Well, I was diagnosed in June of 2020. So of course, we were all going through COVID and everything that was going on with COVID. So I always say, well, that was my contribution to 2020, as if things couldn't get worse. Here I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So mine was just discovered in a routine mammogram. I know a lot of people postponed their mammograms during COVID as well. And that's one of the things I can say, and I echo what Jackie is saying, get checked out. Don't put it off. It's 1 in 8 that end up, having breast cancer. But you're probably not going to be the 1 in 8. But if you are, you want to catch it early, I don't have a history of it. There's a cousin in Cuba, I think, that had it. I don't really have any details about it. Mine was also discovered early. Mine was a stage 1. And I just had in the left breast a few cysts. The fact that it was multifocal, as they call it, really doesn't make it more aggressive or anything. But they look at the larger of the tumors, and that's one of the things that I guess determines what stage, if it's gone to the lymph nodes or whatever. Like I said, it was very small. They were all very small. It was caught early, and thank God it didn't go into any of the lymph nodes. Right. So that was all really good news. I also had the benefit of knowing 2 beautiful women who are, one is a high-risk pregnancy a doctor who's a personal friend. And the other is also another mom from St. Teresa, who's Cristina Lopez Peñalver, who's a surgeon, oncology surgeon, focusing on breast cancer. She's fabulous. And I feel that I was very fortunate that when I was in this, the other thing is backtracking a little, I've always had my mammograms done in the same place. I think that helps too, because they can compare from one year to the next. And I do mammogram and ultrasound because my breasts are just naturally very dense. I remember always thinking like, oh my God,
That's
I
a
have to
good
do
point. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I have to do,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's actually leads to a higher incidence of it. Again, not to panic anyone because, but you know, I guess, right. So that's another one of those things that because of that, they would do the mammogram and they would do the ultrasound. And I think in my case, it wasn't even so much the dense breast or anything. It was just some hormones that I was prescribed to kind of deal with some of the onset of menopause, you can't sleep and the hot flashes and this and that. And, again, you need to talk to your doctor. Every woman's case is different. But in my case, I mean, I almost felt like there was a direct correlation, I don't know that to be a fact. And there have been other doctors that I've spoken with that even Dr. Peñalver, who's like, well, you can't really say that it was specifically that, but it's an estrogen positive or receptive, I don't even know what it's called. But I was very, very fortunate, and I was fortunate that I was able to get her as my surgeon, and she really like helped me through it all because, like Jackie says, it's the kind of diagnosis that really, for anyone, I'm sure, it just leaves you. That's a good description, Jackie. It just leaves you breathless. You're like, what? I mean, I just went in for like a routine one, and I always feel 20 million things. Are you sure? Like, and they had me in there for longer, and then they were like, oh, we're gonna have the radiologist come in. I'm like, what for? Like, why is the radiologist? No, yeah. And then and I it was recommended to me because I had like 3 or 4 little spots to just remove and also have a mastectomy. I came out of the mastectomy with the breast there, like the implant and everything all took place at once. The first thing, as Jackie said, is your family. You want to be there for your family. I have 3 children. I had the last one at the age of 42, so she's like,
and you find a way to go through all these stages and just keep praying and that's kind of
and I definitely think that the fear of things sometimes is the worst. And of course, all these things get in our heads, and sometimes it's like, just get out of your head, just do what you need to do, get checked out.
Yeah.
And then if God forbid you have it, there will be a plan. There will be a plan in place. You caught it early. You're gonna have a plan in place, and you're gonna get it done. And then for me, when the psychologist called me, MCI has a lot of, I'm sure it's most of these places do, but MCI has been my experience. They have a lot of support. At least when some of these appointments were done via Zoom, like to go over test results and stuff, or plan of action. It was good because my husband sat next to me and wrote things down. You need somebody to process and help you process.
I like the telehealth because I can be like here with, somebody, a support level. You write things down, submit to the doctor's office. You can go in and you come out, you're like, what did he say? I don't remember.
Right. So I think that's super important, and then once and all that, and you have a plan, and with my experience, it's like, once you have a plan, it's like, okay, you start executing that plan, and then you're okay. I'm so happy to be able to do this, but it wasn't something I could do right away. I didn't even want to talk about it. I didn't tell anybody other than my immediate family knew. But I
help people, again, I was just
because you don't even know how you're going to handle it yourself. So
I think I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think there's like it depends where you are, and it depends on kind of person that you are also, there, just like there's so many stages of grieving and what have you, you do grieve. Like, like Josie and I are more or less the same age. Like, when you start going through menopause and you start grieving, like, okay, you're not going to have any more children. You're entering a different stage in your life. So when they give you this diagnosis, you kind of start like with that shock. And then it's like, okay, what do I need to do next? Like, there's steps to it. And certainly your family is such a great support. I had friends that reminded me that there's a community that loved me. It was eye-opening to see people come together for me and my family. So I think when you go through something like this, your perspective changes. And I know that I'm a homebody, but I've changed a little bit in the sense that I say yes more. Hey, yeah, let's do it. Let's live it. Let's do it. So exactly. So you want to live, you want to enjoy. It's almost like you were given another chance, and you have to appreciate it and cherish it.
So it's important to communicate, to not be so isolated, like to communicate.
You have to do what's right for you.
Josie, how did you tell? Sorry, but how did you tell work, and how did you take more time off of work? Did everybody know at your job?
I did tell them, because obviously as one of the directors, and I wasn't going to be coming in. I had the surgery going on. So, again, it was 2020. So there were a lot of restrictions, but we were one of these essential businesses. So we never skipped a beat. I would go to work and there was like no one on the Palmetto, so, and I would get there. And to a certain extent, there was a sense of normalcy because the factory was still running, the sodas were still being made, calls were coming in, people were picking up, a little bit different, but, we were still there with our mask and everything. So from that standpoint, it was almost like a good, like a sense of normalcy. One of the things they say is to like include your kids so that they can be part of it, so they can feel like they're helping, And one of the things we did was after the surgery, we told them, I didn't tell a lot of people. I didn't even, to this day, my mom doesn't even know. The kids all like came up with like a plan of what they were going to cook. So they had to do the recipe and everything. That was interesting.
I love it.
But it's two different perspectives. Josie, it's two different perspectives, which is interesting. Like Jackie was the psychologist to make more people aware, which is a great decision. But also, I probably like a little more. I wouldn't tell that many people, but it's not like it's a bad thing to tell people. It's just everybody chooses their own personal path.
So much support right now. There really, really is. Yeah. And even talking to the plastic surgeon, I'm like, I feel a little bit guilty. And he's like, absolutely not. And he went and explained, like, even if you wanted to go like no breasts and just be proud of your scars, then be proud of your scars. But there's so much support.
It's a process of, yes, surviving, but also like making sure you feel comfortable.
Yes.
And making sure you feel comfortable in whatever perspective, whether you want to show your scars or you want to reconstruct, so
exactly.
A personal decision, like
it is, but
it's being aware that you have these choices now.
Having the choice, I think, is the best thing.
So, ladies, as one of my final questions, because we do try to help as much as make people aware of certain subjects every month. Circling back to like more marketing, how would you and you're aware, how breast cancer awareness, how they establish that nationally and locally, how would you change from a marketing perspective to communicate more to women? Like, is it more like maybe doing like a like maybe for doctors or whatever, reaching out to women on a local level to maybe post something on their social media, or maybe reaching out to you as maybe ambassadors to their clients eventually? Like, how would you want to do it? And like from a marketing perspective for your doctors or your own personal social media communication or your companies, communication, like Josie, it's a great opportunity to turn a can pink. I don't know, how would you think would be a great way to do it?
Well, I remember, once this happened and everything after my diagnosis, of course, for as long as I can remember, October has been Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And, you would listen to those things and you're like, oh my God, that's horrible, but I think there's a lot to be said about the positive story. There's so much hope in survivors. I remember being at a I think it was a football game, and one of the things that they did, a UN football game, was they interviewed survivors, during the game. It was just good for me to see that too, because I'm like, oh look, she's a survivor. Oh, she went through that and she's here to tell the story. And
You're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah.
It was one of the anchors, I think she said it's been 9 years, Good Morning America, that they were doing a whole thing on the air with mammograms for breast cancer awareness. And she went and did hers, and she didn't even want to do it. She's like, I don't want to, all right, whatever, it's like part of the job. I have to get it done. And turns out that that's when they discovered. And I think she had like stage 2 breast cancer, and she's alive and kicking. And she tells her story every year. She's like, I went in there to get that mammogram reluctantly,
I skipped that year of COVID, and I thank God I just went because of breast cancer awareness made me aware.
Yeah,
exactly.
What you asked as far as what should we do? One of the things I have to say is that in my job, a few years ago, I was at one of my schools, and there were some insurance people there, and they were selling or promoting a cancer insurance. And, it just comes out of I signed up for it, like, okay, so it covers my husband, my children, should we ever get this diagnosis. And a few months before my diagnosis, I was like, I want to get rid of this. And then I called, why am I paying for this? So I called the benefits department. They're like, well, you can't do it right now, but you have to wait until open enrollment. So I get diagnosed. I send them everything, and they immediately had a very generous check for me. So as far as I took a medical leave, so this was very helpful that I got a hefty check, it just took that worry out of my mind, which was so important. So getting informed, if you do work, like asking the questions, what's my coverage, what is this like, just having that safety net. You don't know if it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. The place where I did all my imaging, when it's October, the head radiologist dyes her hair hot pink. And I've always thought that is the greatest thing ever. Like, she is all about it. Everyone is like, we're like this. We're women. We're together. It is a women's place. So we're together. This is not taboo. We're going to talk about it. We're going to embrace it. We're going to run. We're going to laugh. We're going to cry. Like, that was key. I told a friend of mine who is far more open than I am, and she's a survivor, and she immediately connected me with South Florida Breasties. And it's a huge organization. Women are like sharing pictures, talking, sometimes a little bit. It could be uncomfortable for some people. Yeah. But within a couple of weeks, I had button-down shirts, I had, essential oils, I had little notes and cards and packages, and oh my goodness, it's awesome. And then I'm doing this for someone else. So there's a sisterhood out there that is like, we got you. We're not going to let you fall. We're going to support you. And I think that talking about it, and I think also what's important that happened with me, Josie, I don't know if they did this, but they did do the genetic testing.
Yes.
And I was, this is not a genetic situation, but what I did learn is that you have to also talk about it with your boys, with your sons. They get breast cancer. So you need to talk about it with them. You need, and that was, I think, probably the most difficult conversation, was talking to my children. And I prefaced it by, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. But, you're saying that and you're like hoping, like, yeah, I'm going to be okay.
Could you suggest to your doctors as you go back every year, whatever, and say, if there's any other women that are going through this, and maybe like there's stage 1, there's different stages, like, I'd be happy to be an ambassador if you need me to.
Yes, I did do that. They actually were the ones that came to me and asked me if I would speak to someone else going through it.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, for example, St. Teresa, let's say, if you're going to be part as a new couple, you have to talk to other older couples. When you go and apply to get married, like the same thing for cancer awareness or any kind of cancer. Like,
Yes.
like talk to your church if there's any other families going through this. Maybe I can apply to be an ambassador.
That's a great
Maybe
idea.
these,
That's
you
a
know,
good idea,
maybe
yeah.
that's something we can start, you know, like sending like pamphlets to, you know, maybe for next year, I'll try to do that.
Absolutely.
You know, because I think that we need to like come together as a community and like, you know, or divorce. Like there's
Yeah.
other families going through divorce. Like I didn't know of that was St. Teresa family that I was going through. I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. You know, so I think that support level needs to be
Yeah, that's a really great
grassroots,
idea.
and
That
then-
is a
and
good
then
idea.
comes up. But I think also part of it, like Josie, I know this is a big step for you because you haven't really, but I think it's a part of the
Yeah.
healing process that you come up and you talk that, you know, people, and somebody might listen to a couple minutes of this and go, you know what, I didn't know, I'm gonna get all these news, you know, the Pink Pass or the South Florida Besties or, you know, the cancer insurance. I mean, they're important things that, you don't know about unless you talk to other women and stuff.
Yes.
I think there needs to be a better support at churches, like, you know, for people going through these ailments, like,
Yeah, for
cancer.
sure. So hearing those words, you know, you're gonna get through this, or hearing, you know, those are the things, like if you hear the oncologist say like you have a good prognosis, it's like you have a good prognosis. Yay! You know, like those, she said good prognosis, write it down really big. Good prognosis, focus on that, you know, and those are the things, you know, what can I do? I have to run, I have to eat better, I can't do this, whatever I have to do, I'm willing to do it, you know.
So Jackie, from a marketing perspective, there was something you did that was really a great idea. Can you talk about it for just a second?
Yes. Okay. So I was talking to a girlfriend and I was feeling a little bit sentimental about the change that was going to take place in my body. And, you know, my breasts had done their job, right? They had fed 4 children. They had been celebrated. So I wanted to say, you know, bye. So my very dear friend gave me a a boob voyage party, and so there was a, you know, yeah. So it was tasteful. Those could get kind of crazy, but it was tasteful, and it was more about, you know what, you've been good to me, and now it's time for us to part because you're trying to kill me.
But listen, from a marketing perspective, that's a great idea for, you know, because you can invite more of your friends and maybe they weren't even aware, and then you can communicate more, and it's the whole thing, bring awareness. And I think it feels strongly like in your churches, in your schools, and communicate. I mean, again, when you're ready, like Josie, I know this is a big step for you and I'm very proud of you, but it's a big step, like how you want to communicate it, you know, and, but I think that is a great idea to.
It was fun. It was fun, and I needed the lift at that point. I needed like I felt like that I was starting to slip away, and I needed to laugh about myself, which I do a lot, but I needed to laugh.
Jackie, we're gonna market that like to Party City. Like, I think it's a great breast cancer awareness thing, you know, like.
If you do a search, you'll see it's out there. As a matter of fact, the cake I wanted was like a boob cake, right, with a beautiful bra. And I was just, you know, I didn't know how people, you know, I'm a little much. I'm not from here, so
I love that.
I'm a little much sometimes. So I was like, you know, let's just go with the white Publix cake and a pink bow. But yeah, you could get all kinds of crazy with this.
Well, ladies, I wanted to say thank you so much, Josie, for your time, and Jackie for your time.
Thank you.
So this has been truly amazing. Like I got, you know, more emotional. It's I could talk about this all day, and I think I want to do a whole series on like, ovarian cancer, which is a silent killer for a lot of women. Other forms, you know, and how that we can communicate that in a marketing perspective. Then I'll put all these ideas in the chat, in the YouTube chat. So I want to tell everybody, stay tuned for more PIL videos like this, and check out my YouTube channel, subscribe, like, whatever you want to do, and look at the information I'm going to post, because Jackie and Josie will give you great information. So we'll relay out that to you. Again, thank you so much, ladies. I can't thank you enough. So
You're welcome.
We'll be having lunch.
Yes, definitely.